Morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening if you're catching this in Replay City. I'm John Jerkowitz, and we've got a really exciting hangout for you today. Three of my four guests are here. The fourth is on her way, had to drop her child off at preschool, Miss Carrie Roldan, but you'll get an opportunity to hear her thoughts and views. I want to give you the format for this hangout today. The people I invited into the panel are practitioners. They're people who have hosted Hangouts for a period of time. I'm going to ask them to share a little bit about themselves and the type of Hangouts they do and what drew them to this platform. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of open it up and have a free-form discussion on what makes a good Hangout. As always, please, your questions and comments are appreciated. Matter of fact, we almost require them. In a sense, this is your Hangout. We're here to help you use this platform a whole lot better. That's kind of why I put this together. So, you didn't come here to hear me. I know that. Handsome as I am, you didn't come here to hear me. So, I'm going to start with Meilani. And Meilani, I'm going to give you the floor and the ceiling and everything else.
Hi, everybody. I'm Meilani MacDonald. I'm a brand identity and social outreach strategy consultant. I love Hangouts. I've been doing Hangouts actually since they were first introduced, before there were Hangouts on air. And when I first started doing Hangouts, for me, I saw an opportunity to do networking face-to-face beyond local borders. I think face-to-face networking is really still the most effective means of making those connections and building relationships with people that you potentially could do business with, and introducing yourself and talking about your business. So when Hangouts came out, I mean, my Hangout is called the TGIF Business Networking Hangout, and that's what it is still today, even after Hangouts on Air became available. It's a business networking hangout. I really am friendly to newbies who come in. I get a lot of them, people that come in and say it's their first time that they've come to a Hangout. And although I do feature a guest, I like to make it more of a networking style hangout, where what I call the peanut gallery, the film strip down there. I like to give everybody a chance to talk and to provide their input and ask questions. Thank you, John, so much for inviting me to join you today on your Hangout, which is a great topic, and I think we're going to have a lot to learn today.
Quick question for you, Meilani, before we move on. What do you enjoy the most about doing your Hangout? Because just a little editorial here. I've been in your peanut gallery. I watch your show when the opportunity presents itself, and you just really seem to enjoy what you're doing. Okay, could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I enjoy public speaking a lot. I'm a Toastmaster. I go faithfully to my Toastmasters Club meetings every week. It's a weekly club. I do enjoy teaching a lot too, and to me, Hangouts are a really great tool for teaching people, because again, when you're holding a workshop or a class, if you're doing it on location, it's really just the people in your local area that have an opportunity to come, and then Hangouts come along and they open up the field to pretty much anybody who has a computer and an internet connection that can come in and learn and teach and share and be social. I like Hangouts because they're face-to-face, and I like seeing people's smiles, and I like seeing people interacting with each other. I prefer to do a Hangout video call over a phone call any day. When it comes to communications like that, I ask people first, you know, Gmail, or rather email is great, or Hangouts or FaceTime or Zoom, any kind of video call is really preferred. Then phone calls are kind of last, because for me it just loses something. We get to hear their voice, but I don't know. I've never been a real phone person. Hangouts kind of changed that. I really enjoy them, like you said. I guess it just shows.
Good. And next, Kit. Actually, the only thing, I don't sleep before I do these, okay? And part of the reason I don't sleep before I do these is I'm going to try to say your name, Krithika,
Krithika.
did I get
Yes.
it right?
Yes. Perfect.
Krithika Rangaj, wait, hang on. Rangarajan.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, the
Yes.
only nightmare that would have made this worse, and James can relate to this, is if Manolis was on here with us. And then I'd probably be on the floor trying to undo my tongue. So, Kit, welcome.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much for
Um,
having me here.
Take the opportunity to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about HOAs, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm Krithika, or Kit. I am a writer, and I also co-host Get Busy with Kit and Jim with James Spears here. And our mission is really to connect our dream audience with visionary entrepreneurs who are really passionate about people, because we really believe that, you know, if you really want to have a long-term sustainable business, you have to put people first before profits, right? So we try to connect you with real human entrepreneurs who love to have fun and care about their audience. And how I got into the Hangout space is a good story. I was first on Mia Voss's show with Christine DeGraff. That was my first Hangout, and then I did Christine and Mia with them again. And I think Jim was in the audience of that show, and maybe he liked what he saw. He wanted to get to know me better, and he said, "Would you like to co-host the show with me?" Because he was already doing a show before, and I think his co-host left the show, so he was just looking for another co-host. And I took this as an opportunity to polish my public speaking skills, because I used to be a really good debate person in school, but then I kind of lost my confidence, and I wanted to regain that, and I wanted to put myself in front of people and just kind of just go with the flow. And so Jim and I had a private hangout, and I really liked him a lot as a person, which I think is very important if you're going to co-host a show with somebody that you really like and trust that person. And the rest is history. So, I'm here. So that's how I got in the hangout space. And I love it. It's fun, it's free, it's an engaging, empowering tool. And I think every small business should take advantage of it in creative ways. There's so many ways you can utilize Hangouts. And I think you'd be missing out a lot if you do not take advantage of this tool. Even if you're not a fan of Google Plus, that's fine. Just take advantage of the tool, which I think is the best part of Google Plus is Hangouts.
Talk for a few minutes about your upper lower right hand third.
Yeah. That credit goes to Dennis Juice. He's the man behind our upper, lower, left, and right thirds. He's amazingly creative, and he just came up with this idea. We didn't even tell him to do it. I don't think so, right, Jim? I mean, he just came up with it, and in fact, he does. If he's available, he does one for every guest too. So we all have similar lower thirds, which goes back to the branding aspect, which we'll, I'm sure, talk about later.
Another question for you. How much of a challenge is it? I host my show alone right now. I know Meilani hosts hers alone. She's got a peanut gallery. But what kind of challenges do you face when you're co-hosting?
In Jim and I, it kind of works well because our roles are very well defined. Okay, Jim is the host. I mean, he's the main guy. He's the one who moderates the call and everything, and I take care of the comments and just interacting with our guests, and I take care of that aspect of it. So I think in our case, it's a pretty smooth flowing machine. It's just, I think finding guests is one of our difficulties in that, we each know different people, and sometimes the guest I know, he may not know, and the guest he knows, I may not know. So to kind of come together and understand each other, that is kind of maybe a challenge. But otherwise, I think we understand each other very well, which is why we work together very well.
Okay.
You're muted, John.
I muted myself. See. I'm going to move on and turn it over to James Spears. I know James a lot of different ways. I guess I started watching his Hangout maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, and just really enjoyed how topical it was, and the type of guests and the type of subjects they talked about. And so, Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can share some of your wisdom about how you use Google Plus and especially the Hangouts on Air.
Cool. Okay, well, I have no wisdom, just ideas,
No
right?
hair either.
No hair, just ideas. So I'm James Fierce. I'm the innovation coach. As the innovation coach, I help small businesses and entrepreneurs, freelancers, anybody out there who wants to kick their business up a notch or two. I do it, but using creative and unique ways. And one of the greatest ways that small businesses can really grow is to use the Hangout feature, whether they're using regular Hangouts or a Hangout on air. There's so many possibilities that small businesses don't understand about the power of Hangouts on air, the power of YouTube, and how they can all come together in one place. Do you know what I mean? And you can pull from that. So I enjoy doing the Hangouts. It's so much easier having a co-host and somebody as great as Kit is, because I am total non-multitasker. I can focus on one thing and do it well, but it has to be just one thing. I cannot multitask, so I can't run the show and monitor the comments and do all the bazillion other things that you need to do to run a Hangout effectively. But to have somebody who's really adept in that, to have somebody like Kit who's into marketing, who's sometimes she denies it, but she's into social media and she does social media really, really well. And to have that kind of a co-host with that kind of influence is really, really important. And it's key to the success of Get Busy, Get Busy with Kit and Jim. So yeah, that's my spiel.
I want to probe a little bit, Jim, because I agree with everything you said, but you also do the Saturday morning team talk, which is an individual hangout. You have a guest on sometimes, and other times you handle it on your own. How is that different for you? Is your preparation different? Do you find it a little more difficult to manage, going back and forth, going from you and Kit to just doing it by yourself?
Okay. Well, Get Busy with Kit and Jim is a beast. And by a beast, I mean there's so many parts and pieces that have to come together for Kit and Jim to be successful. On Kit and Jim, we're always looking for interesting guests. We try to go out of the box, and we try to find guests that people don't necessarily know, or if they know, they're kind of lower key on Google+. But we really, really spend a lot of time searching for interesting guests, interesting topics that are different, that people might not have ever seen these guests before. People might not even know much about the type of business that they're doing. I'm looking right now at bringing a wine consultant in, maybe next week, a wine consultant who has a background in entertainment, right? So we're shaking the bushes looking for different types of people with different types of experiences so that we can bring something fresh and new. So to be honest, I mean, Get Busy is a lot of work. The Team Talks is really completely the opposite. It's a shorter show. It's a half-hour show. It's also business-centric, but we pick topics a little bit differently, and we're not so stressed about getting guests on that show. We are going to have guests, but they'll be because it's sponsored by Team Referral Network, and because it's a branding opportunity for that particular organization, for our organization. We only bring team people as guests. So finding a guest is just so much easier, and prepping for that show is a whole lot easier. I mean, I can literally prep for that show in my sleep. So that's the difference between Get Busy and the Team Talks.
Thank you. And joining us, Miss Carrie Roldan. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good.
Carrie, when we were in the green room before you got here, actually when Kit and I were just here, I told her that when she meets you, you have so much positivity and so much energy about you that she might need to put some sunglasses on. Okay? You are one of when I listen to you, when I read what you write, there's just this amazing, powerful energy that comes from you, and I'm so glad you were able to make it this morning.
Hi.
I give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what your role is here on Google Plus and your platform, and anything you want to share about Carrie Roldan.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm Carrie Roldan or Roldan or Roldan or however you wind up saying it is fine with me. And I have a show on Google Plus that is it's a Hangout on Air. It's about 9 episodes old now, called The Carrie Roldan Show. And I created it because I'm an author, a speaker, a coach, a mompreneur who was struggling to find my way online. And I was really frustrated with the whole email marketing. I felt like the way that coaches in particular market themselves online has just become old hat and generic. And I saw a friend, Lisa Ingalls, using Google Hangouts and really liked what she was doing. I loved the authenticity of it. I loved that it was conversational. And she had a show called Power of Practice that kind of didn't have that much of an agenda beyond asking each of her guests the same question, right? So she asked them, what's your practice? And that's been most helpful to you. And so I started my show sort of with this idea that I just wanted to help other mompreneurs. I wanted to help them. I love giving other people a platform. I love finding out. I live to find out what other people are doing in their lives and what brings them fulfillment. But I started my show with the same concept, about a half-hour long, with the idea that I'd have one major question in mind. Now, mine's not the same question every week because it depends on the guest, but that I want to help mompreneurs with body, mind, and business. So basically, if I'm interested in it, if it lights me up, then I want to, whatever it is you do, if it lights me up, if it lights you up, it probably lights me up. And if it helps mompreneurs, then I want to have that person on my show, and I want to have a genuine, authentic, real, unscripted conversation. So that's me in a nutshell.
And Carrie, you've got a book coming out soon, correct?
I do. It's, to tell you the truth, it's actually out. It is on Amazon now. I just haven't launched it. So on November 18th, I'm doing a real launch where I'm going to ask everybody to buy it all at once to hopefully help me get to an Amazon bestseller. But my book is called Run Yourself Happy, and it is basically the point of the book is to help people, whether they're already a runner or not, use running as a daily spiritual practice. So I'm excited.
Very cool. One more question for you before I kind of open it up. I saw in your bio you taught high school. Okay.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
Okay, so I taught, let me think. I must have taught for about 6 years. Maybe actually take that back. I taught for a couple years, then I subbed for a couple years, then I taught so maybe I taught for 5 years with a subbing hiatus in between. I taught high school English and Spanish, and I coached high school. That's how I started my whole coaching journey. Is from the second I graduated college, I started coaching high school cross country and track. So I did that until, and then I moved into college for a little while, so until my 3rd child was born just 4 years ago.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
A couple comments before I open it up. I was busy writing while you all were talking because I saw a lot of commonalities. I heard a couple of you talk about Toastmasters. Heard a couple of you talk about public speaking. Heard, Carrie was a high school teacher. Okay, and I know this. Jim didn't share. Jim's an engineer by profession. Back in the old days when we both had hair. There seems to be a commonality that I see with people who are successful in using this platform, and I guess that's where I want to use it as a starting point or a leaping off point. And I'm going to throw the in general question out there so you can all unmute yourself whenever you so choose, is what makes a good hangout? This is your 15 minutes of fame, so to speak, to share with the world what you think makes a really good hangout. Okay, somebody go.
I'll go. I think what makes a great Hangout, is just that you're out there doing it. You mentioned, John, the similarities, and one of the similarities is that we all just saw this technology and we took advantage of it. And last Friday on my own Hangout show, the guest Travis Taylor and I were discussing how there are so many potential avenues of outreach using Hangouts, and businesses just aren't. We were wondering why more businesses weren't taking advantage of it. So whether they're polished or just starting out, the fact that they're doing it is really key, because you become polished after you keep doing it. So you have to start somewhere. Just get started. That, and staying on track on the discussion, because we have people in our audiences that we're trying to attract. For most of us here, it's business people, and if we're trying to attract business people are busy. Their day is full. They have businesses to run. So staying on topic, I think, is really important. If you are promoting your Hangout as today we're going to discuss what makes a great Hangout, then that's what we need to discuss, what makes a great Hangout, because people are putting it on their calendars, they're making time in their schedules to listen to it. So it is up to us as a good host or guest to deliver that topic.
And
Okay.
I agree. And I also think there are a few things, and to be honest, I don't think I'm 100% there yet, but there are a few things that I notice in watching other people's Hangouts that I think makes a good Hangout. Beyond just, I'm sure the discussion into the content of the Hangout, but I think good audio, being free of visual distractions. Like you guys notice my living room is in the background. I almost didn't start my Hangout because I was trying to figure out how to get my background. I didn't have a place in my house that had good lighting and nothing behind me, and I thought I needed to have some fancy like Mia Voss poster. But all I do before my Hangout, I try and clean up as much as I can and then blur my background so that it's not as visually so people aren't like trying to see the pictures on my wall or look at what books I have on my bookshelf. And same for my guests. If I can vet my guests beforehand so that I know that they at least know how to use a Hangout and that they sort of keep those things in mind, that they're going to be able to be heard by my audience, that their background isn't going to be distracting, and that their webcam is at least good enough so that when they move, they don't go blurry or get pixelated, I think, just so that for the person listening or watching and listening, it's not a distraction, it's not like hard on their ears or their eyes, that people will want to stay and finish the Hangout.
Those are really, really good points. You know, one of the things that popped into my head while both you and Meilani were talking, and maybe Jim and Kit, you can kind of address this. How do you use the HOA platform to create relationships? Because I think that's really, really important. Last week on your show, Christine Bowen brought that issue up about saturation and talked about creating relationships. Could you guys kind of address that?
Oh yeah, I love Hangouts because I love what we call our dream audience. That's what we call Get Busy's audience, our dream audience. And I can't tell you the number of times I've met amazing people just because they knew the guests that we brought on, and that introduced me, Jim and I, to a new set of audience, and we just started talking in the comment thread. And that's what I do during the show. I love going to the comment thread and just talking to people because you need to, I mean, that's my role on the show, is to keep them engaged. And it's just amazing. And that's how I actually met Christine Bowen. That's how I met even you, John, Tim Longwell. I mean, I could just go on and on. I can name like 10 people who I've met just because they were in the audience. So that's how I form relationships because of our Hangouts, is to really be engaged with our audience during the Hangout. And then Jim goes back after the Hangout and starts connecting with people there. I'm sure he has made some contacts too. What do you say, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of my agenda actually for getting online and doing Hangouts on air, was to use it as a venue to to meet influencers by inviting them on the show, right? I mean, we've had a few influential people. We've had Wade Harman, we've had Mia Voss on the show, we've had Angela Daffron, who's not like huge on Google Plus, but I mean, she's a huge influencer and she's doing some amazing, amazing things. So we've had the opportunity to bring some really cool people onto the show and get to know them both on and off the show. So yeah, relationships are super important. It's definitely a huge benefit of doing Hangouts on air, and I think it's important to do the comment tracker versus the Q&A, because the comment tracker on a Hangout, one of the things that a comment tracker does for you on a Hangout that no other medium has. TV doesn't really have this. Movies, I mean, there's no other way where you can actually carry on a conversation with your audience through the comment tracker system. There's no other medium that allows you to do that. So that's one of the huge advantages of an HOA. The last show that we did, we had almost 200 comments in our comment section. So if you use the comment tracker wisely, you can take your show to a whole different level. You can engage with them on a whole different level, and you can really truly make it more about the audience and less about you and your guests.
Yes, and I think that goes back to when you asked what makes for a good hangout. I absolutely loved what Carrie and Meilani said. I think you need to understand why you're hosting a hangout in the first place. What is your purpose? You know, what is your message? Are you just, because not everyone is comfortable in front of a camera, not everyone might have ideas for a hangout, in which case I would say, you know, don't go on a hangout. You know, go as a guest. Don't host a hangout, because I know a few of, I have some writer friends, and they're really brilliant, like Kathleen Kota is one of my favorite bloggers, and she's amazingly well-versed about writing and personal branding, and I asked her, why don't you have a hangout? I mean, you're so knowledgeable. She said, I'm just not ready yet. And I thought that was great, because she was not just hopping on the hangout bandwagon just because everyone else is. She wants to do it at the right time and, you know, understand why she's doing it before she goes on it. And I think that's very important, because if you don't have a clear purpose, you're not going to find the appropriate guests. I mean, sometimes I see hangouts where the guests really serve no purpose. I mean, they're just there because they're popular, and I don't think that's a good way to go, because ultimately your hangout is part of your brand, and that is part of your brand identity, and you just don't bring people randomly on a show just to get that, you know, short-term popularity. It's more about the long-term sustainability that you need to think about. So finding guests that really align with your values, your goals, whatever it is it to provide entertainment, or is it to create brand awareness? Is it to provide information? Like Jason Weiser, I absolutely love his on-track tips, because he's very clear. He has a set of questions, and the guests answer those questions. And it's very important to have that clarity about why you're doing a hangout before you do a hangout.
Comment from some of the folks in our audience. I'm going to Kathy Pop. I think it's mostly the same for what makes a good webinar. Do you guys agree? Mary?
No, I don't agree at all. A hangout and a webinar are two different beasts, and I think, at least, so let me preface this with, what's your purpose for your hangout? And what is a hangout versus what is a webinar? So I'm going to get up on a soapbox here, because a webinar, the purpose of a webinar in general, so maybe, Kathy, this isn't your purpose for a webinar, but is to educate me to a point, to get me to teach me your 3 points or do whatever, but eventually lead into a sales pitch. And it's education-based marketing. A hangout is not that. A hangout is about engagement. It's about a conversation. So it's often an interview. It could look like a webinar, because my guest may have teaching points. And my guest actually might have something that they are selling even. But the idea around it, at least the way I like to be involved in a hangout, is that it's about interacting with the audience, and it's about being so authentic and genuine and, like I said, unscripted in the interaction. Where a webinar, I feel like, is very canned. It's very structured. There's a formula. And at least from what I'm seeing, everybody's using the same formula. They're moving into the, I know that they're trying to hit my pain points. It just feels, a webinar to me feels kind of manipulative. And a Hangout to me feels much more genuine. It feels like hanging out. It has, I think, maybe the word I'm looking for is casual. A Hangout has a casual feel and approach. It's a conversation, it's opinions. It is not the talking head taking me through their points to get me where they want to take me. And I feel like that's what a webinar is, which is why I'm so attracted to Hangout. So I will stop.
Oh, you don't need to stop.
Hey,
anyone else?
Carrie, I'll piggyback on that. I think you're 100% correct. The casual factor, the conversation is super important on a Hangout. When you're doing a webinar, you're right. It's very much more structured. I think most of the time the objective of a webinar are two things. If it's purely educational, then you're doing it to educate somebody. If it's a salesy webinar, then you're doing it to funnel people into a sale. But you have a very specific mission with a webinar. I think maybe a couple of areas where they come together is both you have to be prepared. Both of them, you have to have good audio and sound and visual and all of that. You know what I mean? You need that for if you're going to use the Google or you're going to use it to do a Hangout. In both cases, you want it to be on point. You want to be prepared. All of that is definitely similar. But I think you're right. The purpose for each one is a little bit different. You can use Hangouts to sell. You can use them to sell effectively, right? If you think of QVC, I think in the future we're going to have the opportunity to have a QVC type network and sell our e-commerce products via QVC type Hangout. But I think you'll be much more effective in those types of Hangout if you do less sales and more engagement, and just engage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. But I've been on webinars that are so salesy that I've actually not finished them. It just kind of click off and go away. And I've also been on webinars that are really very useful. So I think webinars have their own purpose. And yes, it is more, what they're trying to do, which in a way is good because you don't have any, what are the expectations, and you go with that kind of mindset. Hangouts, I think, are more about trust building. It's more about building connections and genuine relationships and trust, which I would say ultimately, if I would be completely honest, might lead to opportunities for your professional life. It might lead to clients. It might lead to sales, but it's not as overt as webinars. Webinars are not subtle at all. We know what they're trying to do. In fact, they have it in the description. That's what we're trying to do. We are offering this $500 whatever for just $200 if you attend the webinar. I mean, it's pretty clear, which in a way is good, but that's more short term, and Hangouts are more long term. I mean, if you're just doing it to sell, your audience is going to run away on Hangouts. I mean, you cannot just sell. It's not advisable.
Meilani?
I actually have a little to add, and I'm going to be the one that is sticking out a little bit here because I have to say I have seen Hangouts that are very, very kind of exclusive to the audience, where they're not really interacting with them and they're kind of treating it like a webinar and very salesy. And I've also been to webinars that are very engaging with the audience. It's a different format and you don't have your audience on camera with you, but you can take questions through phone calls or through the chat room usually. And I think it depends on the presenter and what they're trying to accomplish. I don't necessarily think that just that it's a webinar or just that it's a Hangout are what makes the difference. I think it's the people who are presenting the webinar or hosting the Hangout and what their purpose is, going back with what Kit was saying earlier, knowing what your purpose is. And that's kind of what makes the difference. I've been to very dry Hangouts and I've been to very engaging webinars. So I think that you know, it's just a matter of tools. They have a little bit of a different style, a little bit of a different purpose, but it's how you use the tool that really makes the difference.
Thank you. And, you know, Meilani, that's a good leaping off point for my next question. What makes a good host? I don't know about you guys, but a lot of the Hangouts I watch because of the host or hostess, if you will. Okay. I could never be Jessica Duell. I could never sparkle. That ain't me. Okay. But I watch her because it's engaging to me and it's entertaining to me. Okay. So I'm just going to throw it open. What makes a good host?
Well, I'll just say one sentence. I think a good host always puts a spotlight on the guest. They realize it's not about them, it's about the guests. I think that's one thing that a good host always does. Because, I mean, if you're the kind of host that just keeps talking, and never lets the other person talk, then why do you even have guests, right? So I think the hosts who understand that when you bring a guest, it's about them, and you just kind of moderate the conversation, which is why I absolutely love the way Jim does it. He really knows how to deal with different personalities on the panel, and he does it very well, which I could never do because I ramble a lot. So, you know, hosts should not ramble.
Okay.
I just unmuted myself because I am a host who occasionally rambles. But and I think I'm a pretty good Hangout host. I get a lot of great feedback because I'm authentic, because I'm super real. I make mistakes all the time on my Hangouts. I have the ability to laugh at myself. But my goal every time is exactly what you just said. It is to put the spotlight on my guest. It is to learn from my guest, which is why I do unscripted Hangouts. So even when I talk to my guests beforehand, I want to know, I let them know what my big pressing question is, and I ask them, okay, what is there something that you want to, you know, wrap it up with, something you want to talk about at the end? But everything in between is unscripted because my goal is to learn from my guest. My goal is because I know if my guest is exciting, that I'm going to light up and I'm going to get excited, and that's going to show through, which is why I think I sometimes ramble. But the other thing is that as a host, I need to show that even though I'm learning from my guest, that I have some expertise too.
Yes.
And so it's the ability to relate what the guest is saying to what I know and do, or what I know my audience knows and does and is looking for. So I think it's a mixture of all those things.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, I mean, you ramble authentically, which is good. You know, it's not like you're stealing the spotlight from the guests. It's more like you're adding your own personality. And I think hosts should have a personality. You can't just be sitting there going, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, okay. No, you have to, you know, light up. You have to be passionate about what you're talking. You have to communicate to your audience that, hey, I love this guest, I love this topic, and we're having fun here. That kind of rambling is actually a lot of fun. But I've seen like some Hangouts where the host really never passes on the mic to the guest, and I'm like, why do you have this guest? You know, you're just talking. So, and yeah, I absolutely love the way you said hosts should not be afraid of making mistakes, because that's one thing, going back to what Meilani said, perfection is really a myth. So if you want to be this perfect, I'm never going to make a mistake kind of person, you're never going to try. Like the only time I have ever hosted a Hangout by myself, I white boxed my guest completely. That is, I did not see myself. It was just the guest talking, and my voice was like a ghostly presence in the background. You know, so that was a big mistake. I mean, for a whole hour, my audience could not see me, but that's okay. You know, I'm not going to not do Hangouts because of that. So I think don't be afraid to make mistakes. I thought that was great, and I'm going to shut up. Sorry.
Hey, I like the hashtag ramble authentically. If you ramble authentically, you're golden, right? So we'll go with that. Yeah. So if you do that, you're absolutely golden. John, back to you.
I'm the host. I'm not supposed to say anything. Meilani.
Hi.
Meilani, okay,
Yes.
There we go.
Sorry, I was a little distracted. I'm typing in to the event comments as we're talking. And that's one of the tasks of being a great host, is to be able to multitask, or as James said, bring in a co-host who is able to multitask. And Kitty was talking about it earlier, about engaging with the audience and the importance of engaging with the audience. And part of engaging with the audience, I think, is keeping an eye on the comments, as Jim said, using Comment Tracker, or participating in the comments in the event listing. And one of the tips that I could give out is to summarize the points that are being discussed in the Hangout in the event listing comments. There's a couple of reasons I do that. One, because it's kind of hard to do all these things and still listen to what's being discussed in the Hangout when you're half looking at the comments, half answering the comments. But when you are making it a point to take what's being discussed in the Hangout and put that into the comments, you are simultaneously engaging with the audience through the comments and kind of being forced to listen to what's happening inside the Hangout, so that you don't get caught off guard with to Meilani and then you're not there. But that's one of the, I think, ways that you can sort of multitask and yet make it work.
Okay.
And I have a piggyback to that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Carrie.
I was just going to say, in an ideal world, what I would love, so the place I want to get to in my Hangouts is where I have myself and my guest and my Hangout helper person, but somebody who's there that's helping me keep track of the comments, that doesn't have to engage with me. So I recently did that. I helped a friend launch her product through Hangouts, and I was the person watching the comment stream, and I was also engaging with her. And I found it, even in that role, I found it difficult to do both. But you know, where I am budget-wise right now, I'm doing it all. So
yes, I did that for Christine's show when she launched the book Finding Zoe with Gail Harris and Brandy Ramis. I just was in the background. I was not talking or anything. I was just engaging with the commentators, because I think that's very important. That's what really distinguishes, like Jim and Carrie was saying, a webinar from a Hangout or any other tool from a Hangout, is that audience participation. You know, it's so much fun to just blend in with them and talk to them and get to know people. At the same time, this is something that I heard on Lainey's show that she did, How to Do Good Hangouts. And the guests made a really good point. They said, in the comment stream, don't go completely off topic. It's not a place to catch up with your friends. It's more a place to kind of revel in the topic together. So stay on topic, but have fun with your audience. That, I think, is a challenge, but that's very important, because if we just start rambling, oh, what did you have for lunch today? That's not something you say when a Hangout is live, because you're kind of disrupting the stream for the host and for the other audience members who are really actually listening to the conversation. So I think it's important to be on track, but still have fun. I think it's just so much fun to engage with people and just light up, like Carrie said, just light up, yeah.
Yeah, hey, a couple of things. When I first started doing Hangouts, I was under the impression that everything had to be perfect. But after watching Mia Voss and just benchmarking off of her show, and one of her favorite sayings is just go with a hot mess, because there's always going to be something that goes wrong. So if you just go with it, if you laugh, if you go with the flow, and you don't worry about it, about all of the technical things that can go wrong, or whatever. I mean, there's a billion things that can go wrong. But if you just go with a hot mess, that comfort level is just there. The other thing that I think is important for Hangouts as they grow and progress is it really needs to be what a lot of people term infotainment. There has to be an entertainment aspect of it. It can be super subtle, or it can be in your face. It can be, hilarious, or there are so many opportunities to bring things like comedy and other things into the equation to just make the show more fun, more entertaining, and allow people to get a lot more out of it than just a bunch of talking heads.
Oh yeah, I think humor is just amazing. It really lightens up a conversation. It makes it more natural. Just kind of like Carrie said, laugh at yourself. I think you should a host should have, that ability to laugh at yourself and adapt accordingly. You know, if you take it too seriously, then you're gonna just fall flat in your face, I think.
I'm going to weigh in here just for a second because I think you need to be natural, and I think you need to find what works for you. There's a company, and I'm using them as an example. They're called Creative Training Techniques International, and they do a one-day seminar, and I go to it every year. And I go to it because they guarantee you will learn 20 new things or they will give you your money back, okay? And it's a hook to get you there, and you have to write them down and everything else. But I go and I sit in the back of the room and I watch the presenter, and I watch what he or she does, and then I make a check mark. That would work for me, or no, that's just not me. I'm not a physical comedy sort of person. And I think sometimes when we look at the people who are widely watched in this venue, right, there's a tendency to try to imitate them rather than trying to be your natural self. Jim does an exceptional job with his Hangouts, and he and Mia Voss are as different in their approach as night and day. But they're both very effective people. And sometimes I see folks getting really bogged down in that, having to be the talking head you see on the other end.
Oh yeah. Do not compare and always be true to yourself, for sure. Yes, I have a tendency to compare myself all the time, so that's something I have to keep reminding myself. You know, you're not living someone else's life, you're living your life. You have your own personality, and kind of spotlight that. Yeah, I agree.
And I think too, a lot of it is, right, if you're doing, say you're doing a Hangout series, right, so there's only 3, 4, 6 Hangouts in your series and then you're done. Well, maybe you could pretend to be Mia Voss, or we keep using her because I think she's fantastic, and she's very authentic, but maybe you could, or like Oprah said when she first started, she pretended to be Barbara Walters because she admired Barbara Walters and it gave her confidence to sort of like channel Barbara Walters. So maybe you can do that initially, but if you have a Hangout that's week in and week out, you can't fake who you are. You just can't. And so the sooner you just let that go and become who you are, which ironically, so to take it back to Oprah, Oprah said the minute she stopped trying to be Barbara Walters, and if for her it happened in a mistake on air, the minute she became Oprah, she laughed at herself, she like let her personality come in, she attracted her tribe. And I think that's true for all of us, is when you're really using your Hangout the way to be authentically you and to show the work that you're doing in the world or what you're really interested in, or who knows what your Hangout is for. But the minute you do that and show up authentically, it shows in your Hangout, and that's when you get your loyal following. You get the viewers who you're trying to speak to anyways.
I think a great way to do that actually is to start, before you start hosting your own Hangout, go around and get yourself invited, or invite yourself to other Hangouts that are out there. Participate first in the audience and the comments. Get a feel for it. If you can get invited to join inside the Hangout, or if you find Hangouts that are very inviting, go inside those Hangouts and find your voice. Take your turn in speaking and discussing and adding to the conversation. Then you start to feel more comfortable being yourself, especially on camera, being yourself within a room of other people. And I think it's easier to then not try to compare yourself or be somebody else when you sort of go into it toes first.
Good point. Really good point. And I see more and more people doing that. Carrie, one quick comment. My wife watched you and Lisa Engels with me for a couple of the sessions that you did, and she said, and she meant this very positively, she said she thought it was a very good infomercial. It was very natural, and the play between you two, I think the point you just made about being natural and finding when you co-host, I saw that with you and Lisa. I see that with Kit and Jim. We got about 10 minutes left here. What I'd like to do is give you guys an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you're doing, what's coming up in the near future for you, and anything you'd like to talk about as it relates to you and your business. So, Carrie, I'm going to start with you.
Darn it. Okay, so what I am doing right now is, so I've been the Run Yourself Happy coach for a really long time. I have, you see in my lower third, I have a free report, the 5 reasons why you can't afford not to run, which leads you into my product, which is the Run Yourself Happy system. I'm selling my book in November that is Run Yourself Happy. But in being that, I've made this amazing, I've gotten this amazing network of people, joint venture partners, but other people who I'm so interested in their work. So I'm sort of transitioning into this business BFF. And that's why I started my show for mompreneurs. I started a community called Business Besties. So if you are a mompreneur or someone who serves mompreneurs, or you just kind of want to like know what the mompreneurs are into, it's a Google community. You can Google it. And yeah, it's Business Besties. And I'm just like forming my tribe of awesome mompreneurs who really have something important that they want to share with the world. And my passion is about helping you get your message out and helping you serve your people. So that's it.
Cool. And there's even a couple dadpreneurs in there too. Jim?
Just one question for Carrie. I don't have kids, but I have a pup. Am I a mom?
You know, an indoor dog or an outdoor dog?
I keep him outdoors these days because he has this huge fenced yard, so he's happy. But yeah, he's rambunctious.
All right, sure. You count as a mom.
Hey, okay, so John, what I've got going, so as the innovation coach right now, I'm hyper-focusing on crowdfunding. Actually, later on this afternoon, I'm going to go make a very important pitch to a very cool and awesome business that could blow up huge. I think there's a huge opportunity for this particular business to do very well, and she's a mom entrepreneur. She's a single mother entrepreneur, so I'm definitely going to connect her with you, Carrie. But she's got an awesome and amazing business, and if it all goes well, we can crowdfund her into the next, take her up to the next level through a really cool crowdfunding. I've got a couple of other people who I'm pitching crowdfunding opportunities to as well this week. So that's where I'm focusing. That's where business focus is going to be probably for the next several months.
Talk a little bit about Team Referral Network for about 30 seconds.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's the other thing. Sorry, that's the other thing kind of on my plate is Team Referral Network, and Team Referral Network is an organization that you can grow your business through referrals. And what I'm doing, my particular mission with Team Referral Network is we're going to be the first referral network. We already are the first referral network organization in a virtual space. We're actually taking Team to the virtual space. And so my other mission, my other primary focus is going to be to grow the virtual teams as well.
Cool, 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 cool. Kit?
I'm actually at a pretty exciting time in my life because I'm kind of getting more serious about my writing career now. So I'm going to start freelance writing soon. I'm thinking about that. I do a lot of blog transcription already for my Facebook and Google Plus friends, and they come to me with their video transcriptions, and I do that for them. And plus, I'm finally taking steps to launch my new website. So hopefully before April next year, it should be out. And I have some good plans for that. It's going to be writing focused because that is my area of interest. So, how writers can use social media. It's going to have like case studies and book reviews and interviews, and I have some ideas with that. And of course, I'm going to get more serious about Get Busy too. We need to do better with promoting our show because that is part of my brand also. So that's something in the future. Yeah, so some exciting times. I just have to work.
Good, good, good. And last but not least, Meilani.
Hi, I am doing a TGIF Business Networking Hangout. It is broadcast on the first and third Fridays at 9 a.m. in the morning, PST time. Also, I do private consulting. Mostly it's about brand identity, setting your social media strategy, helping people to spend their social media time on purpose with purpose. The kind of people that I generally work with are those that feel like they are wasting their time when they're using social media. They don't know what they're trying to do. And so we usually start out first with identifying what is your intent, what is it you want to accomplish, and creating a strategy for meeting that. Because a lot of people go into it just, oh, everybody says I should get, everybody's on social media, that's the way to go. But they don't actually think about what it is they want to accomplish, what are they trying to do, what do they want to use social media as a tool for, because it's not an end in and of itself. It's a tool to accomplish something else. And to that end, I created a membership club which provides ongoing training using Hangouts, ongoing workshops, and all kinds of educational resources and tools that we use a Google community, another great tool on Google. I love the communities. So we all, with my members, we all get together in the community and share our resources, have our discussions, ask questions, do learning. I do twice a month consultant in sessions where they can come in and ask for help on whatever they're looking for. And I really love all these tools that Google's providing us, Hangouts and communities that make it easy to interact with our audiences or our members or the other people that we want to interact with. Great tools, great stuff. Thank you, John, again, for inviting me on. This is a great panel today. Everybody, I learned so much. It's always learning. You're never done learning. No matter how long you've been doing it yourself, there's always more to learn from great folks.
And it was good to have you, too. I'll just share a little bit briefly what I've got going on. One of the things I've been excited about for probably the last month and a half is I've been doing some live training and facilitating for a group of 12 fledgling entrepreneurs. It was sponsored through a local university and funded partially by the state of Kentucky. What I'm really excited about and really proud of, it's the first initiative in this state. The Economic Development Corporation largely pushed it. It's a canned program, but I'm dealing with people all from 19 years of age to 64 years of age who are looking at becoming entrepreneurs. And one of the things we're doing when we got to the marketing and media part is it's really kind of interesting where traditional education is when it comes to social media, because they keep talking to me about, you need to stress. And I know the elevator pitch is important, but you need to stress the cold call, and you need to stress this, and you need to stress that. And I'm asking these people, what's your presence on Twitter? What's your presence on Facebook? You really need to get on Google+. You really need to listen to some Hangouts on air. The other thing I'm into real quickly is if you look at my blog here on Google+, it's transformingyourworkplace.blogspot.com. I'll post a link in the comment section afterwards. But I'm starting to write a series of blogs about Hangout content, about preparing for it. One of the things we said when we started was that most of us have a background here of speaking, teaching, and training. And one of the things I'd like to see is the community improve in the content area. So with that being said, I want to thank the panel for being here. This was fun, and I guess to me, I say a Hangout's successful for me when it's fun. As importantly, I want to thank those of you who took the time to watch, those of you who will watch in Replay City. And please keep your comments coming. It's the only way we learn. If you don't tell us where we need to improve, what we do well, what works well, we won't know. So thank you again, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.